Hi, I'm Chris Roselli.
And I'm Dowling. Welcome to Western Window, a show made for you by students at Western Washington University.
This time on Western Window, we'll find out about everything Canada. We'll hear about some fascinating research into a distinctly female-oriented industry. We'll learn more about Western's campaign to increase student scholarships.
We'll chat with a Western alum who's working on a sustainable way to get around town. We'll find out what happens when Western design students go to Europe. So stay with us as we explore our world through Western Window.
Western was originally established in 1889 as Whatcom Normal School with a total enrollment of just 88 students. Today, 125 years later, Western Washington University is 15,000 students strong and growing, but not just in student enrollment, but pioneering new programs, winning awards for excellence, and gaining nationally recognized achievements. Throughout Washington and the world, Western alums and students are using their education to innovate, lead, change, and improve, all while living Western's motto of active minds, changing lives. However, troubling economic times can keep higher education out of reach for too many of our young people. The Western Stands for Washington campaign aims to keep an education of excellence accessible for all students in the state of Washington, raising money for scholarships, research, and programs, and ensuring that students are prepared for the 21st century and beyond. I am here with Stephanie Bowers, who is the Vice President for University Advancement right here at Western Washington University. I think a lot of times people don't quite know, what is University Advancement?
University Advancement is really literally what it says. Our division, we provide opportunities for the university to grow, to try new things, and we do that through engaging our constituents, our alumni, our parents, our community members, and asking them to support us, whether it's financially or in making us have good connections elsewhere in the community. So we are advancing the university by providing that extra support.
I think some people would wonder, but Western's a publicly funded university by the taxpayers of Washington State. Why do we need a private fundraising arm of the university when we're already funded by the state?
That is another great question. As you know, the state funding has been declining at a pretty rapid rate over the past few years. And as a public university, the state does provide about 35% of the cost of a student's education.
So the state pays for 35% of the total education of a student, that's it?
That's approximately right. And
Okay.
so where's the other 65% come from? And that would be from the students in their tuition.
Okay.
Last year, I believe over 67%, nearly 70% of students applied for some kind of financial aid at Western. Scholarships are really huge. They're needed by students who would like to come here.
So what kind of fundraising efforts are going on right now at Western?
So right now, most people might think of a capital campaign where you raise money to, say, build a building
Sure.
on campus or for another a kind of nonprofit. Ours is a little different. We call our campaign a comprehensive campaign because we raise money to help students, to help faculty, to help programs, and to do some capital improvements on the campus as well.
And how much money have we raised?
Thanks to great generosity by a lot of people, Chris, we have already raised over $59 million.
Wow.
Which is just incredible generosity by so many people in our communities. It's such a wonderful tribute to Western that alumni, parents, members of our community, corporations, there are so many people who have stepped forward.
So $60 million coming into Western to support Western, and you said it's comprehensive and it covers a lot of areas. Can you give us some examples of how that $60 million is going to benefit Western?
The three biggest areas were to help students, help faculty, and grow programs. And those have really been, those have been our core fundraising successes, really.
Can you give some examples with faculty as well as growing programs?
Actually, here's one that is both faculty and program growth, which is great. You know, a few years ago at the very beginning of the campaign, the university was looking to do some new programs, and the academic community prioritized going forward with an entrepreneurship program. And yet at the same time there weren't any state dollars to make that go forward. So always one to pick up a challenge. We found a donor, David and Denise Cole, who we thought might be interested in something like this. And David is an alum of Western, and Denise went to school here too. And we invited him to provide a professorship for us, and he and Denise agreed. So we have the David Cole Professorship of Entrepreneurship, and we were able to recruit a phenomenal faculty member, Art Sherwood, and he's already developed curriculum, so we have the classes being taught. And not only that, but we have students that are actually lining up, and there's a wait list for the first cohort to go through the minor concentration in entrepreneurship.
So what if somebody's watching the show right now and they may think, you know what, I went to Western, or my children went to Western, or I employ Western alumni.
Right.
But I don't know if I can really make an impact myself. What would you say to somebody who isn't quite sure if the dollar amount that they're going to give, or if they're able to contribute is enough? What would you say to that person?
Sure. You know, I'd say to that person, there is no gift too large, no gift too small. You know, we need everything to make it all tick, to make this all work.
Well, thank you so much for coming into the studio. It's really nice to see you.
Oh, Chris, this has been a great opportunity.
Right.
Thanks for asking me about the campaign.
Absolutely. Stephanie Bowers, the Vice President of University Advancement right here at Western Washington University, as we get ready to close off our $60 million Western Stands for Washington campaign.
During August and September, 14 students from Western Washington University's design department traveled through Germany and Switzerland, studying international art and design movements and historical events while experiencing local culture. Throughout the trip, students journaled, sketched, and photographed, combining personal expression and critical thinking in a constantly changing world.
Takes them out of the Northwest regional design scene and puts them in more of an international culture, exposing them to different things and aesthetics and mentalities than they're used to.
You're willing to open your eyes a little bit, open your minds, your hearts, and look around you and observe and intake everything around you, because you can't live in a bubble when you're in design.
I've been making contacts with some design firms here, more contacts on a global scale, I think, which is the most important focus for me right now, and just getting my name out there.
That pilgrimage to Bauhaus, where we were just like, really, we were in it after learning about it for so long. It was just fantastic.
We went to the Zurich School of Art, and comparing that to the Bauhaus and how much smaller the Bauhaus is compared to this Zurich school, I feel like I can still do a lot no matter where I am.
My favorite thing I've experienced has probably been the culture, and not only the design culture, but just kind of like the lifestyle around here. It's much more relaxed and open.
The day that we went and visited all of the firms in Berlin was super enlightening. Just seeing how people work and the different work-life balance lifestyles that they lead.
Architecture here is just, it's crazy seeing the old and the new just layered on top of one another, and seeing them butted right next to each other, and even seeing how it's integrated in architecture now. Some things are kind of made to look old, and then older things have new additions to it. So I think it's really cool just seeing these layers of history.
I'm definitely finding inspiration from things that I didn't think I would.
Seeing the nitty-gritty of what's happening with the art scene here right now and the uprise of like people's voice and expression.
I think that really contributes to like a creative mindset and a creative atmosphere, which I think can really produce some good work.
When can you enjoy regional Quebec cuisine, hear French Canadian, and visit with staff and students from another country right here at Western? Well, that would be Everything Canada. It's the day we celebrate our neighbors to the north and eat poutine.
Canada.
Our neighbors to the north.
But what do we really know about them?
We know Canadians William Shatner.
My Balkan friend.
And Jim Carrey.
No problem!
We know Canadians love curling.
And hockey.
There's Shania Twain.
And the Bare Naked Ladies.
We know the country was settled by lumberjacks and Mounties.
We know they have socialized medicine. There's a Canadian Arctic, they have a walled city, their own Space Needle, and they speak French.
We know that to Canadians, this is Niagara Falls.
And this is Detroit.
And as of last month, we know that Canadians have a new Prime Minister with a familiar last name.
Everything Canada, an event held by the Canadian American Studies program here at Western Washington University, gives people a chance to find out information about Canada that they did not know before.
Most of the population lives within 100 kilometers of the border.
The border that we have, that we share with Canada, is the most peaceful border in the history of the human race.
The biggie that we always talk about that a lot of Americans don't know is that Canada is by far the biggest energy provider to the United States, far more than anywhere in the Middle East. That's taking hydropower, gas, and oil all together.
In a lot of American textbooks, they mention Canada only in terms of NAFTA, and the truth is Canada and the U.S. have the world's largest trade relationship, and they don't trade apples for oranges. They trade apple for apples, computer parts for computer parts, car parts for car parts. The same thing. It's a very unusual and unique trade relationship and worth billions of dollars and millions of jobs.
$463 billion to be exact.
And that number is rising.
Our northern neighbors buy motor vehicles, appliances, mineral oil, electrical machinery, plastic products, technical instruments, pharmaceuticals, pearls, iron, and furniture from us.
And we buy mineral oil, motor vehicles, electrical machinery, pearls, plastic, spacecraft, aluminum, wood, charcoal, and cereal from them.
However, the most surprising part of the day wasn't the informational data about Canada.
No, it was about
Poutine.
Poutine, a Canadian dish originating in the province of Quebec, is wildly popular throughout the country.
Sometimes called disco fries by Americans along the border, it's made with French fries and cheese curds topped with a light brown, gravy-like sauce.
Poutine is a star attraction of Canadian cuisine. Why?
Because it's gravy and cheese and fries.
And Canadians are only human.
Today with flavors such as classic poutine, angry poutine, and bacon poutine being offered in fast food chains across the country, it's no wonder Canadians are saying, "Oh, poutine, I stand in line for thee." But what do Americans think of this distinctly Canadian taste?
I had poutine once in Canada, and a Canadian waiter explained to me what poutine was, and then I see that this is like served here. So I mean, I'm not too familiar with it, but I feel like any kind of recreation of poutine is like a cool experience to try and enjoy.
Good. I've never had poutine before. She had the legit poutine, so I think she could probably talk more about it.
Well, why don't you try it because you've never had it before? Come on.
Okay.
All right, that's pretty good.
A brand new flavor of this Canadian classic was unveiled at Everything Canada.
We've also got a kind of a Northwest version of the poutine today. We got the crinkle cut fries, we got a cream sauce, seasoned cream sauce, and we've got house smoked Northwest salmon. So a really unique twist on the poutine. And then we've also got some crepes. So we got a crepe station here, some beautiful French crepes. We've got a Gruyere cheese and a Black Forest ham. that we're going to roll up inside the order. And we've also got some fresh macerated berries and whipped cream, more of a traditional sweet crepe.
So what do Canadians think of the Northwest interpretation of their traditional tastes?
Well, everybody's having the traditional poutine, and I could not. I have to try the Pacific Northwest, so it's a mix of white sauce, potatoes, salmon, and this world-winning cheese that I can't wait to eat. And I'm waiting in line, I'm picking already, but I have to wait for my fork. But it looks really good.
One thing is clear. Canada and the U.S. share more than just a border.
On campus we have a series of different sort of units and organizations that are dedicated to the study of Canada and its relationship with the United States. Canadian American Studies being kind of the core of that, and then a research institute called Border Policy Research Institute. We also have several programming initiatives around field schools and a journal that we edit, so we have booths here talking about those things as well.
And we have a long time history of being close neighbors. If you take the border away, you could already see that we're pretty similar and we share same values, and we all want, I think, the same future in North America. We need to learn more and understand, for example, what is Northern Quebec? Why is there a French presence in North America? And then why is there a French presence also in the United States? Where does this come from? And that's through learning experiences of history. And that will just make us stronger, have better relationships, share culture. And just what we're doing now between Western and us in Quebec through the government of Quebec's contribution is helping us having academic programs that are learning about both of our realities that are pretty similar, but there are differences that we need to share on. Yeah.
Katherine Frankhauser, co-founder of the Spokane-based startup Spark Mobility, is a Huxley grad who is actively trying to change the world. Her solution? An electric bike sharing system that combines the reliability of Swiss-made e-bikes with an open share concept that could allow people to actually get rid of their cars. And she chose Western for the company's debut.
My name is Katherine Frankhauser. I graduated from Huxley College and from Western in 2003 with a degree in environmental science. I am demoing an electric bike share system that my company, Spark Mobility, is presenting here in Bellingham. It's Swiss technology that we are very proud to be bringing right here. The electric bike sharing system works with this station that you see right behind us. The station charges, docks, and feeds some information all at the same time. So it essentially grabs the bike, holds it, and will only release it if an authorized user presents themselves. So that means someone just needs to sign up for the system, and then they get a card that allows them to release a bike. It recognizes them, they can take a bike out and ride it around as they like, bring it back to a station, and it's as easy as can be.
Well, I ride every day, but I had never ridden an e-assist bike before, and I really liked the idea of how it could help me get up hills. So in a town like Bellingham, it's a great thing because I think hills are intimidating to some folks, and you can go as fast up a hill as you're going on the flats.
Electric bikes could affect everyday life for a student in a number of ways. One is if they're located on campus, students could use them to get to places that are downhill with the knowledge that they could get back uphill fairly easily. If they're integrated with other parts of the city, that means that Western would be a little bit more connected to the rest of the city. And they generally make life easy. It makes biking a lot easier. It reduces the barrier of entry. So an electric bike means you can go up a hill easily. It means you don't have to worry about sweating when you get to class. And all of those things just add up also to a whole lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. They're incredibly confidence-inspiring. They've got big wide tires on them. They cruise. The black one there, my favorite, hits about 30 miles an hour at full assist, which is a ton of fun. They corner on rails because the center of gravity is super low. The brakes are real strong. They've got mountain bike style brakes on them, big disc brakes. And they're just a bunch of fun. Big fork on it too, so you get a little shock absorption. Feels really plush.
I think that students are receiving the bikes really well. Everybody seems to be smiling when they're riding them and having a good time. I think everybody's being really safe, and we haven't had any complaints or anything. They're super easy to use, just powered by a button and a little throttle with minimal gears. So it was really busy earlier. We had a ton of people wanting to test them out. We had a little line going, so I think it's been really positively received.
So after riding the bike, I think it's really exciting because
especially because Bellingham is so hilly. The electric assist really makes, bike riding in the area more accessible. I took the bike up behind here, up one of the hills, and it was so much easier to go up without struggling with, the gears and the hill and stuff like that.
It's really fun. I think I've been somewhat opposed to e-bikes in the past because I think that the act of biking is really what's special, but it's really just fun to cruise on one of these things, have that bike-like experience, but to really go fast uphill is fun.
Well, I think now that we have low-carbon ways of producing electricity, electric assist transportation is the way we're going to have to go. In fact, we have to find a way to electrify all of our transportation system, and bikes are just a great place to start.
Are you wild for romance novels? And if you are you willing to admit it? Western sociology professor Jen Lois's joint research project takes a closer look at this woman-dominated industry, how the genre is stigmatized, as well as the subculture that has grown up around it.
Why did we choose romance? That is a question we get asked a lot because I think people are surprised to hear that two scholars would think to study something that we don't really take seriously in the culture.
I've had some people sort of say it's a topic not worthy of sociological analysis. We've had a person who is not an academic but who called the research smutty, right? Mm-hmm. The research smutty because we're studying romance novel writers.
Romance is just porn for soccer moms, or this dirty little thing that you have to hide from everybody because God forbid there be a sex positive culture in this country.
When we get reactions like the research is smutty, it kind of makes us pause, because first of all, that makes no sense. How can research be smutty? But also it makes us realize how deeply held the stigma is against romance. That not only are these stigmas associated with the readers, which we know, and the writers, which we've come to learn, but also with us who are just studying.
It's a huge genre. There's lots of variety in terms of the type of storyline, whether it's historical or contemporary or paranormal or erotic. It's not all 50 Shades of Grey, but some of it is, a subgenre is erotic. It's just like there are stereotypes of romance novels themselves. There's stereotypes about who writes these kinds of novels.
I learned everything I need to know about being an adult from romance, and I will say that all the time, and I get all the looks for it, and it just makes me insane that there's this whole little well, that's unhealthy. No, it's really not.
Romance novels are written by women, for women, and about women.
You have a female protagonist who is allowed to be more than your standard tropes, which is a victim or a virgin or an object or a whore. And in romance, they are more. They are complete characters. They have flaws. They have things that you love about them, things that you hate about them, things that they want, hopes and dreams and agency.
It's the most widely read genre. It's what they read when they're with a parent at the hospital who's ill. So we know it's influencing society in a positive way, and that it's helping people manage. Mm-hmm. And it's helping people be entertained, which is something we also hear about from a lot of writers. So people who are readers, if they're romance readers, they get it and they think it's cool. If they're not romance readers, they kind of snicker and laugh and say, is that like 50 Shades of Grey? But if they're academics, we typically get either, that is so cool, why didn't we think of that? Because that sounds really fun. Right. Or, what is the point?
What's sociological about that?
What is sociological? What is scientific? Why are you doing that?
Mm-hmm. It's the community of romance writers is about, I don't know, we always say 99% female. Mm-hmm. It's hugely, hugely gendered, and there are very few men in the romance writing community. There are a few, but as a result, it becomes this very gendered occupation, this very gendered subculture, and since we're both gender sociologists, that's what we like to study. Part of that is linked to the trivialization that we're looking at, how women's work is trivialized. We're looking at how romance writers are, and readers are sexualized because of the stories are known for their sexual content, and we link that to just sort of the history of, shaming women for their sexual activity in a way that we don't shame men to the same degree. Not everybody really has a good understanding of what a romance novel is, so we have to do kind of a lot of you may think it's this kind of book where the heroine is on the front with her dress falling off. You may have heard of them referred to as bodice rippers, but that's such a small, stereotypical representation of what romance novels are.
You can have your same-sex couples and your hetero couples and your side couples that get together behind the scenes like a rom-com. Really, whatever you have a hankering for, whatever your favorite thing is, you can find it in romance, and it's fantastic.
We found a local group of romance writers who meet every month, and we started going, and we just loved the people who we met there. And the things that they taught us about the career of romance writing and the craft of romance writing, every time we left these meetings, we would talk about all the sociological, elements that, are part of the romance writing subculture. Erotic has a large ebook following because people can read it with more privacy. They don't have to go to a bookstore and face someone, at the checkout stand who's going to sneer at them and shame them for reading sexually explicit material.
50 Shades of Grey. When 50 Shades of Grey came out, it sort of became that under fire situation. But what it did is it really brought things into the public view. People were talking about it, openly talking about it. Everyone from soccer moms to news anchors to whatever were talking about this book. Having romance in any sort of story, in your science fiction or your epic fantasy, your Game of Thrones style, or your, where everybody's killing everybody, but you still have those loves, it's such a part of the human condition. Sex is such a part of the human condition, and to basically just kind of pretend it doesn't exist does everybody this huge discourtesy.
The general reaction we've had, the general reaction has been enthusiasm and interest. Way more interest in this research than anything else either one of us has ever done.
Right.
Way.
And that's it for this episode of Western Window.
Be sure to tune in next time as we explore our world at and around Western Washington University.
Western Window is proud to partner with the following student publications. Gregson magazine is published twice each quarter and includes features, multimedia, and issues that affect lives across the greater Bellingham area. You can find it online at GregsonMagazine.com. The Western Front is the official newspaper of Western Washington University, published by the Student Publications Council and funded by your advertising dollars. The Western Front. Get it first, get it right at westernfrontonline.net. The Planet is Western Washington University's award-winning quarterly environmental publication and the only undergraduate environmental magazine in the United States. Explore The Planet online at planet.wwu.edu.